Hello and thanks for joining me on this episode of Simply Saturday. My name is Julie and this is Stamp with Julie Baum. As I was preparing for today's card, I first got some inspiration from last week's card. So if you recall, this is the card from last week's episode, and I really like the way that this card opens. Not that we haven't done this before, but it had been a long time. And so for today's card, we're doing that same card base. I have a Night of Navy card base. It's 4¼ inches by 11 inches and scored down the center at 5½. So there is our folded card base. And then I have a piece of white cardstock. This is going to be for the inside panel. And we'll do a little bit of stamping on this piece. All of the dimensions for the pieces that I'm using will be in the description box below this video, as well as a link to my online store. I am a demonstrator with Stampin Up, and I have an online store, which is the perfect place for you to purchase many of the products that I show you here in my card tutorials. Every now and then I will show you something that's retired, and you have to either find that from somewhere else, or some of those retired products I put in my own Etsy shop. So you might think of that too. But all that information will be found below this video. Now I've been doing lots of stamping with red, white, and green and reindeer, very traditional colors and themes, which has been a lot of fun. But today I was in the mood for something different, so we're going to use blues and white. And I also have had a bunch of stamp sets sitting on my desk because I've been mixing and matching and reaching for different things. So let me just point those out real quick. One thing I want to tell you is Penguin Place, which retired quite a while ago. It's still one of my favorites, and I pulled it out recently and stamped some cards with this. I really like the greetings in here, and of course the penguin. Then Peaceful Deer is another one that has retired, but I reached for it a lot this season. I like the Merry Christmas, and I especially like the Sending Love and Peace This Season stamp. So you've seen that one probably a couple times. Now, Merriest Trees is where I got my stamp for today's card, To You and Yours. And just a word about Merriest Trees. At the time of this recording, it's currently unavailable, but it's coming back. So if this is a stamp set or bundle with dies that you're looking to add to your collection, just keep checking back. This one will be back. The other stamps that I'm using today are from Reindeer Fun, and I'm using this little tree and the snowflakes. All right, then in regards to the dies, I have several dies that I'm using. They are all from Perennial Postage. Now, Perennial Postage was a stamp set at one time with coordinating dies. The stamp set is no longer available, but the dies are. And so that's what I pulled for today's card. I've been doing several Simply Saturdays where the Designer Series paper does most of the work. Today, our really cool Perennial dies are doing all of the work. So I used this large one and cut out a Balmy Blue piece of cardstock. Then I used a tiny one, and this is where the words are going to get stamped. We're going to use this size. All right, we'll do some stamping on that. And then this size, although you're not going to see me use, there is an interesting, funny story to this one. So I'm going to keep this one right here so I remember to tell you the story at the end of this video. All right, let's get started. I have a piece of scratch paper here. I'm going to lay my Balmy Blue cardstock on my scratch paper, and I'm going to do my snowflake stamping all over this in Balmy Blue ink. The reason I like to have that scratch paper underneath is this allows me to stamp right off the edge of the cardstock so that I can really fill it, and any of that extra then just goes onto the scrap paper. Now, when you're stamping a background like this, I like to recommend that you turn your stamp often. That way you don't run the risk of ending up looking like you have a pattern. Okay, if you do them all the same, it's going to end up like a GCI pattern. And so you do want to rotate your stamp so that you get different parts of the stamp, and you can also kind of fill in areas a little bit better that way. All right, so as you can see, I'm stamping, rotating the stamp, turning the paper even, just to get my snowy background. All right, I think that's gonna do it. This piece is going to get attached to my card base. This is a very simple card, very simple and clean. Not too fussy. We are going to do a little bit of embellishing on it just to dress it up. Whoops, that's the inside. All right, so this piece is going to go on the front. I'm just eyeballing my borders all the way around. And let's get that into place. I feel like it needs to move a little to the left. The story that I'm going to tell you at the end of this video has kind of been the theme of my day. So some days just don't run as smooth as other days. All right, that looks a little better. Okay, then I've got my white pieces that I pre-die cut. And so we're going to do some stamping on those, and we also want to put some images on our white piece that goes on the inside. So using the tree and the Night of Navy ink, I'm going to go ahead and put one tree right in the corner. And then with the little snowflake stamp, I'm going to put some snowflakes. Then without re-inking, I'm going to stamp up a little bit higher. And without re-inking again, I'm going to stamp a third time, so that each one is just a little bit lighter than the first one. So it kind of gives that ombre effect of the snow falling down. This piece is going to go on the inside of the card. All right, then we can go right back to our perennial postage dies that were cut with the white cardstock. All right, on this one, I'm going to stamp a couple of trees. Now I'm going to stick my scrap paper underneath it again. I'm going to stamp the first Night of Navy tree right in the middle and right where I want it, like so. Then without re-inking, I'm going to stamp a lighter one here next to it. And then I want this same shade of Night of Navy. So I'm going to re-ink, stamp it off once, and then stamp my third and final tree here. That way I ended up with the dark and the two lights. All right, then on this little piece, I'm going to stamp To You and Yours. The goal here is going to be to stamp it right in the middle. Now, what I would normally do if I'm not filming a tutorial is I would just stamp the words on a white scrap. Then I would take my die, line it up over it, and die cut it. So then it's perfectly centered. In order to make it a little bit easier for filming, I went ahead and did the die cut, but it also makes it harder on me now to try to get this stamped right in the middle. So I need it closer to me so I can see what I'm doing. And we're gonna hope for the best. All right, it's a little crooked. I do have an extra one. Let's try a second time, and we'll use the one that works the best. As I said, the best practice for this is always to do the stamping first, line up your die around it, and then you don't have to worry about it. It's going to be perfect at that point. All right, we're gonna have two to choose from. Let's go with this one. All right. So this is going to just get glued with my multi-purpose liquid glue right here onto the front. Simple little trees, cute. And the words, we could use the multi-purpose glue also, or maybe we'll pop this up with some dimensionals. I have some minis here. You could use the regular size, and 2 of them would work just great. Since I've got my minis here, I'm going to go ahead and add 3. Kind of had a good thing going, didn't I? There we go. All right, so we'll take the words, put them right here. All right, now I'm going to add a little twine bow, and we're going to make that. I'm going to tell you something. This is a hint as to the story that I'm still telling you. See this cute little double bow? Yeah, we'll talk about that. Okay, so the twine that I'm using was actually part of a ribbon combo pack. It was one of 3 different trims. This was from Flowers for Every Season, so maybe you got it back when Flowers for Every Season was available. But just know that it's Misty Moonlight twine, and it's beautiful because it's white, silver, and blue. So I'm going to take a length of this and just tie a bow. That was a really generous length. You don't need to cut that much. I'll have enough here for a second one. All right, so I'm just going to fiddle with this a little bit, tightening up the center of my bow, making the loops a little bit smaller, and then trimming the tails. All right, let's put this on, and then we'll add our embellishments, and then I'll tell you the story. Okay, I'm just going to take a glue dot. And because the twine is kind of delicate, I'm not going to use my normal procedure, which would be to take your ribbon or your trim and stick it right on the glue dot and pull it off. The twine is just a little fragile, so let me find a dot to begin with. There we go. I'm going to pick it up with my take your pick tool, and I'm just kind of balling it up. And I'm really going to roll it in my fingertips. All right, and then I'm just going to place it right here where my little bow is going to go. And then I'll press the center of the bow right into that glue dot to get it to stick. There we go. All right, this is super clean lines, very pretty, very simple. Kind of understated. I am going to reach for some embellishments. Now, these were available quite a while ago, the adhesive backed glitter sequins, and that's what I want to use. I want to use these white ones because they look so frosty and shimmery. But if you don't have these in your collection, you can shop for other embellishments. There's lots that would work. Here's just an idea. I think these are currently available. The adhesive backed sparkle gems. They would look lovely as well. All right, so I'm going to pull a couple of these off with my take your pick tool, and I'm probably going to add 5. We'll see as we go. 1, 2, and I'm just kind of doing a little bit of a zigzag pattern as I work my way down. 3, 4. I'm being careful to not have any line up perfectly, okay? Like I said, it's a little bit of a zigzaggy pattern as I work my way down the card. There you go. I think those are just beautiful. That's a fun choice, and I hope you have some of those in your embellishment collection. All right, and then we have the sweet little tree stamped on the inside, and there you have it. So let me rewind now and tell you about my day. So I was prepared with this card tutorial, and I had the whole thing completely filmed and ready for you, with the exception of about the last 30 seconds. And at that point, I had someone come to the door that wasn't good enough with just ringing once. And of course, my little dog, I have 2 Yorkies. One of my little dogs is the barker if someone goes to the door. So in my tutorial video, all you heard was the doorbell, the man saying hello, and my dog barking. And so I tried to carry on and complete the video, and it was just chaos. So I had to stop that video. What I want to show you is my original idea was with this other die, the smaller one, and I did that card with one tree. So I think it is sweet and simple also. Now, I never even got to the points of the embellishments. That was the last thing that was going to happen. So I will still add those in a moment. But I got all the way to this point of adding the embellishments and had to completely start over. Then in between card take 1 and take 2, which actually this was number 3, I had a second delivery come to the door. The whole thing happened again. And so it has thrown off my stamping mojo. Actually, my stamping was pretty okay. It was the recording that just went a little bit crazy for me. I'm sure you had those situations where you're in the middle of something and you get interrupted, and sometimes you have to just begin again. So here you have, this was from take 1. The simple little one tree. Also, when I was creating this card, I originally thought that I was going to do a double bow. And so this was 2 pieces of twine laid together and tied in a bow. But as you can see, it was just going to be too heavy. And so I set that one aside and we went to a single bow instead. And now that I have done the 3 trees, I like it equally as well. Let's put some embellishments on here, and let's see, I'm gonna need, this is a stamped piece that's ready to go inside. We could go ahead and put that in because, as I mentioned, I've gone down this path at least 3 times today. All right, so let's get that glued on. And at the end of this tutorial, I will have made 2 cards, even though you only watched me make the one. All right, this time let's use the adhesive backed sparkle gems. Give it a little teeny different look. And maybe we're only going to use 3 this time. Let's do a small, I think I'll put it right there by the tree. Down a little lower. Zoop. Small, small, and then a large one. All right, so there you have 2 takes on the same idea, both very similar. And as I'm wrapping up this video, I am cracking up because literally the FedEx truck just pulled up in front of my house. So I'm glad that I'm finished, and until next time, happy stamping!